Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. Welcome back. We have another wonderful show for you this week, full of amazing titles. We have some of my favorite labels, including the Criterion Collection, Deaf Crocodile, Sony, Paramount, Kino Lorber, Music Box Films. There's a lot of good stuff in here that I'm so anxious to dig into. So I'm going to dig into one of my most anticipated of this month, starting off with the Criterion Collection and their 4K Ultra HD upgrade of Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. Now, this is a really cool looking, beautiful set of a recent Best Picture nominee from a few years back, that I was really intrigued to get this 4K upgrade, which Criterion Collection released Del Toro's The Shape of Water, I believe, late last year, and a lot of people were very excited about that, and I understand why, because anytime Criterion releases something, it's exciting, and someone from Del Toro stature, it's going to get people excited. But for me, I didn't feel it was necessary for me to own it just because it was Criterion Collection, because it already had a really amazing Blu-ray from Fox whenever the movie first came out. And while there were some really cool special features I'd like to have, I kind of had to prioritize my money elsewhere. But for this release, I was a little bit more excited because, as you can see, there are 4 discs here, and there's actually 2 cuts of the film. And while I have Nightmare Alley, the original cut on 4K from 20th Century Studios when it came out originally, this one has the original theatrical cut and a new black and white extended cut that Guillermo made just this year, or completed just this year. I'm not going to take out all 4 discs, but there's the same pattern. I just removed this disc so you can kind of see the same pattern across all these, the 2 4K discs and the 2 Blu-ray discs. This does have this new, I think it's called Visions and Darkness and Light extended cut. Like I said, it's about 9 minutes longer than the theatrical cut. It is in black and white. It's been kind of meticulously worked on by Del Toro and his cinematographer to really evoke this vision that he had to release the film in black and white originally, which wouldn't have played as well commercially at the time. And he kind of digs into this a little bit in an intro that he filmed on one of the discs. But he composed this originally as if it could be presented in black and white, and so it kind of made some of the compositions and how they were translated in this new version very striking, and it seems kind of as if it was made for this, in which he did compose it like that. And the cinematography is astounding in black and white and in 4K and Dolby Vision. Just the way this narrative lends itself to kind of that noirish sensibility. Everything just flourishes and just looks really incredible in black and white. And while the color version is also its own beast, and Del Toro even he doesn't want that kind of dismissed as like an inferior cut or anything, but the theatrical cut, it's like it has some really nice colors and stuff, and there are some important colors narratively that Del Toro kind of remarks upon that you won't get in the black and white version. But the black and white version, in addition to it being black and white, he felt that change in this cinematography and vibe of the film kind of necessitated kind of a different pacing of the film. And so he was able to add in, like I said, about 9 more minutes of footage, mostly character-driven moments that kind of opens things up a little bit more and is a little bit more patient in its going from plot point to plot point, and kind of gives a little bit more room for it to breathe. I won't say that it's a night and day difference from the theatrical cut in terms of the content itself, just setting aside the black and white versus color version. Narratively, it's still very much the same movie, and if you're unfamiliar with the movie, you won't notice immediately a lot of like key scenes. But I think it's just the pacing itself and just this movie, given it's already a very long movie. It was 2 hours and a half in its theatrical form. Now it's about 2 hours and 40 minutes. So minor moments here and there that extends things, but I do think they do overall add to a net positive to this. And for those who, I've talked about this movie before on a previous iteration of this show, but I'll just go very briefly. Stars Bradley Cooper in this film from Guillermo del Toro, who won Best Picture for The Shape of Water. He's done movies such as Hellboy, Blade, Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim. He's all over the place. But he's one of our great directors, and he's doing the upcoming adaptation of Frankenstein, which I'm excited to check out. So it's Bradley Cooper and Del Toro working together in this kind of pseudo remake, reinterpretation of this movie of the same name, Nightmare Alley, which the Criterion Collection has released the original Nightmare Alley on Blu-ray as well a few years back, whenever this movie was going to come out. As well, so you can, if you want to get both versions, you can kind of compare. They're very different beasts, but they're very much worth checking out. But it takes place at a carnival, and it's about a guy who's kind of has a checkered past, trying to work his way up and kind of bring himself out of the gutter to make something of himself through illusion and mysticism and deceit, and kind of this kind of rise and fall of this very kind of ambitious man, and kind of what's kind of holding him back throughout, and ultimately kind of just how his path ends up in a very twisted, karmically satisfying way. It's a hell of a movie. Cate Blanchett plays a key part, a key character that doesn't show up until like an hour and a half into the movie almost, but she's fantastic. And a lot of really great character actors do that, and people that Del Toro has worked with, or I hope works with again. So it's really, really great movie. And upon watching it this time, I really liked it whenever I caught it in like 2022, whenever the 4K came out. But watching it again and just like having just this new presentation and just a little bit of time to reflect on Del Toro's films over the last few years, I would actually rank this as one of his best. That might be controversial, but I think this movie is magnificent. And I think it was a little bit underrated whenever it was released. I know it has its fan base, but watching it again, I think it is really masterful. And I think this release specifically will help people maybe give it a little bit more of a like reconsideration of just like, oh yeah, that movie was good, but like now that we have this new release, let me really like dig into it and like reflect upon it and everything. And if you do so, I think you'll really appreciate everything this movie has to offer. It's really, really fantastic. And this is one of Bradley Cooper's best performances. And everyone's just like really killing it on this movie. So if you haven't seen this movie, definitely worth getting this for both cuts of the movie. But make sure, just no matter what, just watch this movie, because I think it's worth a watch no matter if you want to own it or not. It's worth watching at least once because it's one of Del Toro's best. But in terms of this 4K presentation, both cuts are given their own disc in 4K Dolby Vision. The new black and white cut is in DTS 5.1 only. The theatrical cut has the Atmos track. Both of these look stellar. I didn't notice any egregious banding or anything. Everything, the blacks are dark, the colors in the theatrical version are rich and vibrant, saturated very well. I didn't really notice any encoding anomalies at all. These are 4K masters that look terrific. I think they're just about as good as you could want from this movie. Not really much I could tell of a difference between the theatrical cut of the 20th Century Studios 4K compared to the Criterion theatrical 4K. They look pretty much even, if anything, maybe just very minor, maybe compression issue like differences, but I had no shortcomings come to the surface for the Criterion release at all. So I think most people will be generally pleased and will view this at least equal, if not kind of superior to that previous 4K. You have on the audio side the 5.1 for the black and white sounds really nice. This had to be Del Toro's choice, so don't get mad that there's no Atmos track. I think that was kind of envisioned as this, given the fact that he kind of went back and re-edited the movie and everything. The 5.1 soundtrack sounds great. Atmos track on the theatrical cut sounds even a little bit better, honestly. But overall, both of them do sound good and appropriate for what they're trying to accomplish. And then for special features, you get a new commentary track on the new cut of the movie, which Del Toro goes into some of his thoughts and like on the movie as a whole and this specific cut of the film. You get an introduction to this new cut of the film and why he did it. That's about 3 or 4 minutes long. You get a new documentary on the making of the movie that's about 43 minutes long. You get conversations with Del Toro and the co-screenwriter that's about 13 minutes. And then you get a conversation between Del Toro and Bradley Cooper. It's about 22 minutes. So some good new interviews, documentaries, commentary track, 2 different cuts of the movies in 4K, Dolby Vision, looking fantastic. If you're a Guillermo del Toro fan, this is a dream. I'm glad that he was able to get this version of his film out on physical media and through the Criterion Collection, which it seems like he wants all of his films on the Criterion Collection pretty much. I'm glad to have this here, and if you're a fan of this movie, I think you'll be very, very pleased with this release because it has new special features, new cut of the movie, and it looks fantastic. So Nightmare Alley on 4K from Criterion, home run release. My other Criterion title for this month is from the late, great Ken Russell. It is the 4K upgrade of the very trippy Altered States. Now, this is a movie I know people have been kind of interested in seeing it upgraded for a while, because from what I've heard, it's never really gotten a solid video presentation previously, and I can understand why there's some like challenging looking video qualities, which I'll kind of get into here in a little bit. You get a fold out booklet here, and not much to the, like, it's just pretty much like a dark solid color here. In the background there's kind of like some cosmic-y stuff going on here underneath. But the narrative itself, I'd seen this movie probably 20 years ago. It's been on quite a while. But I did remember key sequences of this, and they kind of popped right back into my head once I got to them in this. It's a very trippy film starring William Hurt, in which he's a scientist who's kind of a little bit of an oddball. He's really always taking chances, trying to push forward and kind of like explore like the greater potential of the mind, and doing like the movie starts in a sensory deprivation tank that they're kind of experimenting with, and the movie is really about that, just like kind of his kind of crazed genius trying to figure out kind of like the different planes of the mind can access and everything, and how his kind of madness can start manifesting in physical ways within his body, especially when he kind of tastes certain like psychedelic drugs and everything, and how that kind of eventually kind of gets into some body horror territory and very like trippy psychedelic visuals and deterioration of romantic relationships and just general madness. The way this is kind of handled throughout this narrative, I think it works really well. I know this is kind of notoriously a movie that had kind of a troubled production, and it is, I can see where it kind of has like some bit of inconsistency here and there in terms of like certain editing or narrative decisions. But overall, I think it flows pretty well with what Russell was doing. And the way this turned out, it is very unsettling. Its use of kind of different editing techniques and visual styles, I think does really lead you down like a journey that you won't soon forget. And it is those kind of visual flares, like kind of background overlays and all kinds of stuff, where you see like William Hurt's character going on kind of a trip through his mind, through the universe, seeing different like entities, like speaking to God, that kind of thing, is where you can see that the video is limited to the time it was made and how it was made, but that material is presented as like gloriously as it can possibly can through this 4K restoration of the original camera negative. And it has been supervised by the son of the original cinematographer, who is a famed cinematographer himself these days. And I think everything looks pretty natural as to what it was intended back in the day. You will see these kind of like opticals in the back, and just like how these kind of blend with the foreground footage. It's not gonna be like super crisp and clear, but everything is kind of it's maintains its filmic qualities. It hasn't been DNR'd to hell, and it looks uh authentic to the original presentation, which I think is what most people would want. So whenever you get like some real crude digital effects near the end, especially, or other special effects, I think you will appreciate how this video master has kind of handled that and made sure it looks the best it can. It's kind of similar, but in a different way, to kind of how I was talking about Tron a few weeks ago, how there were limitations to the original like digital effects that I was working with, but seeing that rendered in 4K was as natural as it was supposed to be. And that's kind of similar, but different to how Altered States was kind of executed in the end. So as I mentioned, this was a 4K restoration of the original camera negative in Dolby Vision. And the visual wise, like I said, looks fantastic, naturally filmic, no nicks or scratches. Everything's been cleaned up very well. And I think most people will be super, super excited by how good this looks. And I think this will probably be the ultimate presentation of this one. You get both the restored original 2.0 surround track and then a 5.1 alternate track. It's very rare that Criterion Collection gives you 2 audio tracks to choose from. I know that's been a complaint on some of my reviews in the past, but you get 2 different audio tracks, which is great. And both of them sound really nice and consistent, no popping or anything like that. Everything sounds really good. And I'm very glad to have both of them. You do get a commentary track. It's a new one. I believe that's one from Sam Deegan. It is from Sam Deegan. She's fantastic. One of my favorite people delivering commentary tracks these days. You do get a archival interview of Ken Russell and an archival interview with William Hurt. You get a new interview with one of the special effects designers. That one's pretty cool. It's like a new 20-ish minute interview, which gives you a lot of great behind the scenes detail. So this one, it isn't the most requested Ken Russell film. That would still probably be The Devils. But having another highly requested Ken Russell film on 4K Altered States is a dream come true for a lot of people. And I think they'll be very, very pleased by how this looks. Criterion Collection's done a really, really terrific job with this. So they're 2 for 2 this month on titles that I've seen. So Altered States, pick this up if you're a fan. You will not be disappointed. Next up, we have a new 4K release from Sony, and as people know, they are one of my favorites, especially of the major labels. Sony's 4K re-release of The Quick and the Dead, now on Steelbook for its 30th anniversary edition. But this isn't a simple re-release of the disc that came out in 2018 or so, 2018, 2019. This is a new 4K release in Dolby Vision. It adds Dolby Vision, and you also get a new special feature, which I was kind of surprised by, considering it wasn't in the original press release. But there's a new special feature as well to kind of bump things up. But you get this really nice steelbook here, showing that off, of this Western directed by Sam Raimi, who brings a really cool visual style to this one. I actually did a double feature of this and the original Evil Dead movie, and just seeing a lot of kind of his techniques that he's carried over from that original film to his more Hollywood films. I like to see that there's definitely consistency in his filmmaking. And he brought a lot of energy to The Quick and the Dead, which does star Sharon Stone here, as a woman who is out for revenge for stuff that happens whenever she was a kid, but she finds herself in a town where the person she's trying to take revenge against, Gene Hackman's character, has arranged kind of like a contest for a quick draw contest for people to like shoot each other and try to prove they're the fastest gun in the West and stuff. So you have this contest that's kind of like at the center of this story, but on the periphery, you do have people kind of plotting their own revenge and kind of have their own backstories that they want to kind of execute. So you have people also like Gene Hackman, Leonardo DiCaprio rounding out the cast. So super stacked cast full of talented individuals. But despite all like kind of the expected Western drama and like kind of things we've seen before, what I was really impressed by with this story is just like we very rarely get a female-led Western that gives like so much attention to like the female character while like making her still be such like a real badass and can shoot well and like is so adept at what she does, and they really give her a lot of character details and everything. And Sharon Stone really makes a meal out of it, so really glad that this kind of shook up the genre a little bit, while still giving all of the other characters some meaty parts as well. Like DiCaprio's playing like a young upstart, like confident, cocky kid, and Russell Crowe is just like someone who's trying to find redemption after like a lifetime of doing wrong, and all this stuff. All these characters kind of work well together, and each person gets their moment to shine. And I like that Raimi balances all this really well, all the character work with a lot of really cool action as well. So overall, I think this one is a treat. If you're a Western fan, or even if you're not typically a Western fan, this one has enough energy, I think, to maybe be a nice stepping stone into the genre that may make you want to watch more. But has a really good energy to it with a lot of great performers. So very much worth a watch just on a movie wise. In this 4K, like I said, it has been released on 4K previously in HDR10. This is now in Dolby Vision from the same 4K restoration of the original camera negative. Looks terrific. Really, it has like a more of a golden, dusty color palette, but everything looks really rich, nice, accurate. No dust specks, dirt, nothing like that. Everything looks really, really great in Dolby Vision. No compression artifacts, no encoding issues to speak of. You get the original 5.1 track, but you also get a Dolby Atmos track as an option. So you can, if you want a more expansive audio option, you can go Atmos. Otherwise, you have the 5.1 track that was originally released. You get the previously released deleted scenes and a trailer, but you also get a new 20-minute interview with the screenwriter, which is really cool, and just he gives a lot of nice background to his career and working on this movie and everything. So Dolby Vision, Steelbook upgrade, and a new interview. So they've done a nice job with this new 30th anniversary release. So if you're a fan of this film, this is the ultimate version to get. Sony's one of the best in the game, as I've mentioned. They really continue to outdo themselves, and The Quick and the Dead is very much worth a purchase. Next up, we have one of our big summer blockbusters. It is a franchise finale. It is from Paramount. It's the 4K debut of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, with our dear Tom Cruise, finishing up this historic Mission Impossible franchise with a final go of it, in which he tries to wrap up kind of the plot threads from Dead Reckoning, the previous film a couple years ago, and kind of jam-pack a lot of fan service and everything, and kind of wrap up all of the threads of the franchise in under 3 hours, almost 3 hours. And he does so to mixed results. I think this film while it is very good, it is a little bit underwhelming, I think, compared to what a lot of people wanted from like a Mission Impossible finale. Like this movie takes a long time to get ramped up. It takes almost an hour and a half of like exposition and trying to like get all these plot threads together and everything to get into our kind of final runway of the movie. And I think that kind of will lose a lot of people in terms of like pacing and everything. But once you get to the finale, and that kind of stretch last hour plus a stretch of movie, it is really thrilling. Some of the aerial footage in this movie is some of the best of the franchise. And it will leave you holding your breath. And there are some really good character moments. I just think that the need to try to cram in so much fan service, I think ultimately hindered the movie, but while still providing an entertaining enough time for those who didn't remember every single beat of the last 8 movies or so. But Tom Cruise, he's great. He does his own stunts. He cares about this franchise, and he obviously put a lot of work into this. And all the side characters and everything are doing a really good job. It's just compared to some of the heights that the franchise has reached over the last few films, not so much Dead Reckoning for me, but prior to that, with Fallout and Ghost Protocol and stuff, those highs were so high that it just feels like we would have like wanted this to go out more on a high for Final Reckoning. But it's good. It's very good. But just compared to what has come before it, it doesn't quite match those highest of highs. But seeing people like Tremel Tillman from Severance in this, he ends up being a highlight of the movie, along with some other new faces as well. And yeah, overall, fun movie. Fantastic 4K presentation. It's in Dolby Vision, brand new movie, no encoding issues. Everything looks great, sounds great in Dolby Atmos. Just a real immersive experience, and that looks vibrant, no encoding issues. Everything looks terrific. It's all you could want from a Tom Cruise 4K movie. The 4K disc does have all three commentary tracks that are provided for this one, which I was surprised there were so many commentary tracks. But that was cool. And then you have that the movie on Blu-ray in here, and a third disc for just special features as well, because this movie is so long. And while it's not like a disc busting amount of special features, there's a good amount of special features. So you do have about 17 minutes of behind the scenes like featurettes, another 25 minutes or so of like editorial kind of pieces of like how they accomplish certain stunts and everything that you can kind of get into. You get more promotional videos for the franchise and some galleries and stuff. So overall, really good 4K release of this final entry in the franchise. If you have all the rest, I don't see why you would skip this one. But you'll be pleased when you add it to your collection. It's a really good disc, and it is a fun time at the movies, even if it isn't the best of the franchise, which I kind of hoped it would be. But Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, still very much worth the purchase if you're a fan of this action-packed franchise. Sticking with Paramount, we have a 4K upgrade for the 20th anniversary of Aeon Flux with Charlize Theron from director Karen Kusama. This is a movie I hadn't seen in a while, so I was interested to return to it because I remember people weren't the hottest on this whenever it was first released. But I think it's decent, like a decent sci-fi tale. It's starts off telling about a kind of a virus that got released in 2011, I believe, and kind of killed off a large portion of the population until a cure was found. And kind of fast forward a couple hundred years in the future, and the people who survived kind of all live in this one kind of area where kind of there's kind of like a totalitarian-esque stranglehold over the population, where they're like everyone is kind of openly kind of like living in an idyllic society, but you don't really have a lot of control of your life. And then there are those rebels that are trying to fight against this, and they're kind of like trying to topple the people in power. And this leads to a really kind of twisty tale of Aeon, played by Charlize, trying to potentially snuff out one of the like main ringleaders who's been in charge for a while, generationally. And what she comes to learn once she comes face to face with this man who may not be as much of a stranger as she believes he is. And there's all kinds of twists and turns within this tale, but it kind of works within a sci-fi framework that we've seen before, but it has some really great visuals, some nice action sequences. I think Karen Kusama did a really nice job with this, and any flaws with the movie, I don't think rests at her feet. I think maybe there were some more so script issues, but performance and visual wise, I think it's a really solid movie, and I was entertained overall. I don't think it deserves the kind of hate that it gets. It's a perfectly solid movie. It's not my favorite movie from Charlize or anyone involved, but overall, I think Aeon Flux is a perfectly solid sci-fi tale that has some interesting ideas. And I think if you're not comparing it to the original MTV anime series, which I don't believe I've ever seen outside of like snippets, if you judge it as its own thing, it's decent sci-fi entertainment. And I was glad to revisit it on 4K in this nice steelbook. The 4K transfer looks nice. I think it's definitely a step up from the ancient Blu-ray that's included back, that was released first in like 2006, I believe it was. So definitely could use some sprucing up and everything in terms of color saturation, encoding. Has a DTS 501 soundtrack that sounds really nice and bombastic when it needs to be, or nuanced when you hear certain kind of environmental effects. I didn't notice a lot of in the way of problematic encoding. I know that's a lot of concern with Paramount catalog titles, but I didn't notice anything super out of sorts. I didn't like no major DNR or compression issues. All the bright skies seem to hold up pretty well. Maybe minor things here and there, but overall, I think it maintained a pretty natural appearance that I think most people will be pleased by. Nothing new in the terms of special features. The 4K disc has no special features, but the included Blu-ray disc is the same one as before. And you do get those 2 commentary tracks that were released previously and 5 different featurettes and some other kind of odds and ends like trailers and stuff. So if you happen to be a fan of this film, Aeon Flux on 4K I think is a nice upgrade from the ancient Blu-ray, but maybe not a super like stone cold classic sci-fi, but worth another shot if you've maybe forgotten about it, or if you've never seen it before, still worth checking out. Don't let kind of the more negative reactions scare you away from forming your own opinion. So Aeon Flux on 4K, I think it's worth checking out for sure. Now, I won't lie to you. The next one, not really worth checking out. It's still from Paramount. We are going to the Blu-ray release of the new theatrical film Smurfs from earlier this year. Oof. Now, this is like, I don't know what number movie we're on of Smurfs. This is maybe like the 4th or 5th movie that we've seen. I have one 4K of a previous Smurfs movie that I found at like a Dollar Tree that I still haven't watched. So this is my first theatrical Smurfs movie I've seen. I used to watch some of the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, which I hope comes out on Blu-ray from the Warner Archives at some point. That's another story. But for this animated version of the Smurfs, what we have going for this particular version is the cast, because it does have some really good people. You get very prominently here that Rihanna is Smurfette, but you also have people like John Goodman, Dan Levy, Amy Sedaris, Natasha Lyonne, Sandra Oh, Nick Offerman, Octavia Spencer, Nick Kroll, Hannah Waddingham, Billy Lord. So many people. I won't just like bore you with everyone, but really stacked cast full of people. And that is pretty much where my enthusiasm starts to fall off a cliff precipitously. because the story itself, it's very muddled. The jokes are not very funny. There are small things here and there. The James Corden inclusion, he's kind of a little grating. Just overall, this, even for a younger audience, which essentially this is supposed to be a kids movie, as opposed to a family film, which everyone should be able to enjoy. This definitely isn't a family film, and I think even as a kids film, it doesn't quite hit the mark. Um, just I don't know. There are better kids films, and this, just the humor in this one and how it all kind of executes everything. It is just so dire, and like I want more for our children these days. And I wish things were just better. And this just isn't. This just isn't it. I like the director behind this. I think he directed Shrek the Third, and so like there's talent behind the scenes. Just everything together just did not make a good Smurfs movie. Maybe this just isn't a property that's meant to be on the big screen. But unless you're just like really need something new for your kids, I'm not sure that I can really recommend this for pretty much anyone. But visually, it looks good on Blu-ray. Looks like perfectly vibrant, sleek. Everything looks great. Visually, it's a really, really nice looking film. It's just everything else, like narrative and everything, that's a problem. Dolby Atmos soundtrack, which is pretty terrific. It's nice and immersive, and it does everything it needs to do in your surround system. You do get some featurettes and some music videos. This is not a Smurfing good time. I don't know what this person is smoking, but Smurfs on Blu-ray. If you like it, it is technically a good release, but I can't really recommend it for you. But if you do need something to occupy the kids, but the whole family as well, might I suggest from Universal the 4K debut of The Bad Guys 2, also with Natasha Lyonne in here, along with characters returning from the first Bad Guys, played by Sam Rockwell, Mark Maron, Aquafina, so many good people in here. And the first Bad Guys, I think that was a really nice surprise for a lot of people. And if you haven't caught that one, make sure to go back and check that one out. It has some really cool animated flourishes that I think we've been getting away from some of the more kind of like standard, like almost lifelike Pixar stuff that they've been trying to do for the last few years. And like you have movies like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and like the Spider-Man, like Into the Spider-Verse films, that do really interesting things with animation. And I think The Bad Guy 2 really follows in that space. Or even kind of fellow DreamWorks film like the Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. The Bad Guys, very stylistically interesting, and then the characters are cool. They're kind of like, they are bad guys, and they're trying to be good guys, and especially in this one where they have kind of learned that doing good can also be like fun and worthwhile, but there's still kind of that siren call to be bad and stuff. And then they meet the bad girls, which is a whole new team that kind of like messes up their dynamic and everything, and how they interact with one another and how they kind of like flourish out of that. It's really interesting to see how each team is tested and learned and all that kind of stuff. That it has all the right lessons that you want kind of a younger audience to be learning, but there's also kind of a little bit of a playful edge to things that will maybe make it seem a little bit dangerous in terms of like a kid's mind. But I think it just like it's wholesome, fun. Adults can like it, kids will like it, and just it's just fun. It's a really good time. If you like the first one, I think you'll like the second one. You just have new characters added on with the old characters you already have begun to develop a relationship with. It's a good time. I personally really love this movie because I'm a big fan of Mark Maron, and he plays Mr. Snake. So just hearing him have a great time in this character is a blast, but everyone else is great too. So Bad Guys 2, very, very worthy sequel. I wish it had done a little bit better when it was released in theaters earlier this summer. But now's the time to give it a second life on home entertainment. And because it looks really great on 4K, this is in Dolby Vision and with Dolby Atmos audio. Beautiful, gorgeous looking film in Dolby Vision. All the rich colors are saturated with such intensity and nuance. Everything looks great. Everything sounds great with Dolby Atmos audio. Very immersive. Height channels are engaged very often. Everything sounds great. You do get a commentary track with this one. You do get a new short film. You get deleted scenes. You get various featurettes and like how to draw scenarios and stuff. Really, really good release for the Bad Guys 2. If you're looking for a family film, get the first one, get the second one. I think you'll be very pleased. But also, if you're looking for some new animation for the family, this one might be a little bit more challenging for a younger set because they would need to be able to read. But maybe once you get to a little bit older, check out my first Deaf Crocodile release. It is Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 2. I reviewed the first volume a few months back whenever it was first released. It had some really cool things in here there. And this one deals with filmmaker Lev Adamatov, who there's 3 films, all kind of, look at this gorgeous box art. I just want you to delight in it. And it kind of like the way they are able to incorporate all 3 films in here is really great. So we have The Scarlet Flower, which runs about 42 minutes, The Snow Queen, which runs about 65 minutes, and The Key, which runs about 58 minutes. So all pretty decently linked, and especially all together, very much worthwhile. And here's the standard version. Like this box and stuff with the booklet I'm going to show off is the deluxe version. So if you want the deluxe version, make sure to order that. Or if you only want the standard version, you'll just get a version that looks like this. Standard Scanovo case here. And no booklet, but just here's the disc in the background here. And these movies are super entertaining. If I didn't go chronologically, if I went more so by hype, the star of this is the Snow Queen, and I've been listening to like the Deaf Crocodile podcast and hearing Craig and Dennis talk about this release. And one thing that I know for sure is like how much of a debt we owe to the Snow Queen. If you're a fan of modern animation, just because it is told that this is one of Hayao Miyazaki, one of his favorite films, who helped found Studio Ghibli. He's one of the greatest animators who has ever lived. But he was at a point early on in his career where he was kind of burnt out. He wasn't sure if he was going to continue until he saw a screening of the Snow Queen that like came to his work, and he saw it and it blew his mind. He views it as his destiny. He just it's one of his favorite films, and you can kind of see a lot of flourishes and stuff from the Snow Queen that would go on to be in some of his films. And so just like the fact that the Snow Queen led to us getting pretty much all the Studio Ghibli side of things, we owe Snow Queen a debt of gratitude. But also just the film itself is fantastic. It's a kind of a classic tale, but in this one you have like a little girl trying to kind of make it across like the snowy elements to reach her friend that she loves, who has been taken by the Snow Queen, and she just goes kind of like on an epic journey, meets interesting people, all that kind of stuff. It's really great and very entertaining. For the Scarlet Flower, we have like a father of 3 daughters who goes off and sailing around the world, promises to bring each of them back like a gift, and they all request something. I think the youngest daughter requests a scarlet flower, and it's like a very special flower. which he ends up retrieving, but he has to make a deal that has some very dire consequences, and that kind of ultimately work out in really interesting ways. This one really reminded me a little bit in part into like Beauty and the Beast a little bit, and how that kind of ends up working out in just like different scenarios. Very interesting. And then the one that's kind of an outlier is The Key. It's a little bit of a different animation style. I did like it, even though thematically I did not agree with it. I think it was taking shots at people who are lazy and want to be lazy, because this this story is about a newborn child whose parents get some fairies to come over. They conjure up something that, like a ball, that will kind of give this child basically an easy life and happiness and everything. But of course, a dude comes in, the woman's dad comes in and is like, no, we're not going to make it easy. We're like, this child just can't be raised like to have everything given to him and be a layabout and like just be useless to society. He needs to contribute something. And it just leads to a whole epic journey of just like him figuring, like, trying to get this child to not grow up to be lazy and like develop skills and stuff. It was frustrating for me as someone who loves being lazy and would love to be just given everything and not have to work. But there's very much Soviet values in here in terms of like pulling your weight and contributing to society. It's still a lot of fun despite me personally feeling attacked. But it's a really, really great trio of movies, and if there's any more Lev Animatov to get on physical media, I hope we get that from Deaf Crocodile. But for this, really, really great release of some animated gems. They have been restored with great, great care by Deaf Crocodile. They were scanned in Germany at Solzmalt Films, and then given to Deaf Crocodile for their restoration work. And Craig did his normal wizardry along with some helpful friends from his with like color grading and stuff, to really make these trio of films sing. They look terrific. But everything is completely natural to how they're supposed to look. So you had that original animated texture and everything. They are not scrubbing out any detail that you would want within this original animation, because you want things to look as authentic as possible. And when you're working with Deaf Crocodile, you know that they're going to make sure to make that happen. So all the colors look fantastic. Everything looks as stable as possible, but the animation itself looks natural and textured, and everything looks really, really amazing. All the sound work has been restored as well. That sounds really nice. No major humming or pops or anything like that. Everything has been reserved and preserved very well. And you get some great special features. You get commentary tracks on the features. You get a couple of visual essays. Really, really terrific work. This is only volume 2 of this. Volume 1 was terrific. Volume 2 is amazing. I know they have at least up to 5 volumes planned, I think, with maybe an option for more coming. So if you're an animation fan, strap in and make sure you're getting each one of these, because I know that Craig and Dennis at Deaf Crocodile, they have a lot of great stuff in store, and they've already released really good stuff. And you will not want to miss these deluxe editions especially, so get those early. But even if you miss out on those, the standard editions are really great just for the content itself. So the Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 2, with the Snow Queen, the Scarlet Flower, and the Key, very much worth checking out. The second title from Deaf Crocodile this month is a really cool film. I believe it's the oldest film we've gotten from Deaf Crocodile so far. And this is the Hungarian drama Sirius from 1942. So this is a genre film. It is a time travel film. And I won't go like too much into it in order to kind of retain some of the plot specifics, but it does kind of somewhere in time seems to owe a little bit of a debt to this story. It is about a man who kind of on a whim goes back in time a couple of 100 years, strikes up or meets a woman. There's some great romantic aspects to this. But there's also an air of like, will they be able to stay together? Will our kind of hero kind of make his way through this kind of like society where he's kind of like facing some different obstacles and people who don't really appreciate him being there, like just in general, because just he kind of sticks out with his kind of different values from being from another time and everything. And just a lot of just, this is probably the least cynical Deaf Crocodile release I've seen, or at least live action Deaf Crocodile release. It's very, like I said, romantic and genuine, and it just really, if you like a good time travel tale, this one probably not on your radar, but definitely should be. It just like has a really fantastical sensibility that I think kind of conjures the best of that kind of genre of storytelling of time travel. So you got great production design and costumes, and the performances are great, and the performers, like the stories of the performers, like behind the scenes, are really cool. Like our lady here, she is a real life hero in terms of like rescuing like children from being killed by Nazis and stuff. It's a really wild story that you can get a little bit background on in some of the special features. But this is just really, really terrific release. And it's been once again handled with care by Deaf Crocodile. But for this one, I cannot give them complete credit for the restoration, because the restoration was actually handled on this one it's a 4K restoration from the National Film Institute in Hungary, from the nitrate camera negative. So they did a really, really fantastic job at the NFI in Hungary, and to make this look terrific. They cleaned up all the dust and specks and all that kinds of stuff. So to make it look almost immaculate, all the sound tracks have been preserved very well and everything. So as much as I love Craig's restorations, this restoration that was given to them probably helped them out a lot. They didn't have to put in hours of work for that. But also just there's so many great archives around the world doing great stuff, and just that this was restored with such care by the NFI in Hungary, you got to give them props. And anything that they are going to be putting out in the future, anxiously await that. So we get terms of special features, what Deaf Crocodile did whip up. We get some like commentary track, visual essays, lengthy interview, and a really, really cool behind the scenes thing from the original production. It's only about 3 or 4 minutes long, but it was also found at the NFI in Hungary. It's basically an intern that was on the set. It was like had a video camera, and they discovered this footage that had been shot on this set, that while it isn't super substantial, it's just a piece of history that just like was conveniently found and was able to be included on this release just like through serendipity. It's pretty awesome, and I think that's really cool that just there's so many different aspects falling into place, and like that are able to, that Deaf Crocodile and like a lot of boutique labels go to just like try to bring as many cool things to collectors as possible. So there's little things like that. Like, sure, we can have all the new commentary tracks and visual essays and stuff that they can afford, but there's some things that you can't really buy in terms of like archival material, and just finding something like that is pretty amazing. So Sirius on Blu-ray from Deaf Crocodile, another winner from them. Love them so much. And cannot wait for what they have in store for the rest of the year, because it sounds pretty insane. But for Sirius and Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 2, those will keep you busy for now, and very much worth checking out. Next up, from Music Box Films, we have one of our most prolific international filmmakers. We have Francois Ozon's Windfall is Coming. So Ozon, he does seemingly a movie each year, maybe more than one movie each year. He's insane. And because of this kind of output, his quality can be a little bit inconsistent, but they usually are pretty good at least. And this one I think is a very solid mystery drama thriller, low-key thriller about a woman who has kind of had kind of a rougher past. She's made some bad decisions. She has had time away from her daughter and her grandson, just through kind of like frayed emotional relationships and stuff. But she's trying to work her way. She's kind of isolated herself, but also trying to work herself back into their lives. But she is also kind of luring them in through some like financial support means and everything. And then all of this kind of gets disrupted one time by kind of a freak, maybe accident that happens whenever they're all together, and how that all kind of spirals out. I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to spoil some of the developments. Even if you read like the back cover of this, it kind of like reveals a little bit more than I'm comfortable sharing. But it is a story of a woman who kind of gets into like some interesting, outrageous scenarios. There's like some dark comedy, there's some dramatic moments, but it's a person trying to reconnect with her family, feeling frustrated, and dealing with like personal baggage and figuring out what is intentional, what is an accident, what makes a family, and just all kinds of stuff is going on with this like family dynamic. Very twisty, very dramatic, but very approachable for an Ozon movie. He can be a very controversial filmmaker in some respects, but this one is kind of like more mainstream friendly than a lot of his titles. And so if you're looking for like a easy stepping stone into the world of Ozone, maybe try this one out. It's very satisfying, but maybe a little slow, but in a good way that I like. Overall, Windfall is coming. It's a pretty interesting little gem of a movie, and with us in fall now, seasonally appropriate, we're checking out from Music Box Films. They've done a really nice job with the transfer. It's a brand new movie, beautiful HD transfer, no major issues, maybe small slight bits of banding here and there. Overall, holds together very well. The original soundtrack is great. You do get some interviews, deleted scenes, bloopers, like costume and lighting tests, and more. Overall, Music Box Films killing it. Francois Ozon, it's a good one from him and worth checking out from Music Box Films. And now I'm going to go on a quick run through Kino Studios classics, some international films we got. We got the late Alain Dillon in Boomerang. In this one, he plays a father of a kid who was got on drugs, and he killed a police officer. And it is like him trying to convince people to go easy on his son, and he has some skeletons in his own closet that may prevent his son from getting a fair trial. So it's kind of like this father who's been kind of like an absentee father, trying to make up for his past absence, and trying to make sure his son can maybe have a life once again. And there's all kinds of twisty stuff going on here, and character-driven motivations. Things get tense, but overall very intriguing, tragic in certain ways. But I liked it quite a bit. Boomerang's pretty decent. You get a 2020 4K restoration from Studio Canal. Looks really, really good. No major damage or anything like that. The colors seem pretty consistent and saturated well. And no major shortcomings, no black crush. Everything looks pretty good. Sounds good as well. The original language, the original French. You do get a commentary track that's pretty entertaining and informative. So overall, if you like Alain Dillon, Boomerang from Kino, solid entry to your collection. And always when I think of Dillon, I think of his counterpart in my mind, Jean-Paul Belmondo. And on here we have Cop or Hood. So really kind of a exaggerated performance from him. He's kind of plays like a kind of an out of control archetype of a person, but there's a little bit more going on. He kind of goes undercover into kind of this crime riddled town that's kind of has some controversy in it, and he is trying to get in the midst of this investigation and trying to get to the bottom of like some different nefarious things that are going on in this town. And he himself acts very colorful and outrageous and stuff. So you really never know if like most people would know like what side of the law he's on. So it's a very magnanimous performance or magnetic performance from Jean-Paul Belmondo. And I think it's a very interesting crime, twisty drama. Once again, this is from a 2K restoration from Studio Canal, and it looks really, really nice. Also, no nicks, scratches, all that kinds of stuff. And you got a commentary track for this one as well. So overall, solid release. Another French crime film for your collection, Copper Hood. If you like Belmondo, definitely worth checking out. Another crime film with neither of the two icons from France, but still another good one. We have Last Known Address. So this one we have Lino Ventura and Marlene Jobert. For this one's pretty good. We have another cop who has recently been busted down to kind of a lower precinct because some powerful people kind of overturned his very valid arrest and used their political influence to get him punished for trying to bust the son of a very powerful person. And while he's there, he's trying to get back kind of what he lost, and he's been given like a chance at redemption by solving this case where there's a missing witness to a very powerful person that they need to find in order to put away this powerful criminal. And he teams up with this new kind of secretary-ish woman who kind of becomes his like partner in tracking down where this witness is at that's been lost, and maybe is lost for good reason. And this is a really morally interesting movie where you wondering whether what is worth certain outcomes. So is it worth putting someone in danger in order to put away a more dangerous person, and what is justice and that kind of aspect. So I actually found Last Known Address, like out of the last couple of movies, this one was the most interesting for me in terms of French crime dramas, and I like this one quite a bit. It's another 2020 4K restoration from Studio Canal. Looks fantastic, just like the other two movies. No major damage or anything. Sounds good. Another commentary track. Overall, if you're a fan of French crime films, Last Known Address, I think, is definitely a hidden gem that is very much worth your time. Hitting up another one from Kino, we're going over to Dan Curtis's Late Night Mysteries. This is a collection of 4 films that aired on television back in the day from this acclaimed producer, one of the minds behind Dark Shadows. And so on this collection, we have Shadow of Fear, The Invasion of Carol Enders, Come Die With Me, and Nightmare at 43 Hillcrest. So these were kind of like melodrama, thriller, oddities, where you had like weird things happening, like kind of spirits possessing people in order to solve their own crimes. You had like a family being kind of put through the emotional ringer for being accused for a crime that they may or may not have committed, and just different kind of like crime adjacent mysteries that maybe have a supernatural flair or just kind of like put things at an odd perspective that are in a way quite interesting. Similar to the classic Ghost Stories set that I talked about last year, these were filmed on videotape. Up-res to HD through a careful handling of stuff. So these aren't going to look amazing because they were shot on tape. They're just trying to find a way to present these to an audience like in HD without it looking like complete trash. And I think they overall do succeed, even though the limitations of the original format are readily apparent. But they do a nice enough job that if you know what you're getting into and you know you're watching a shot on tape piece of entertainment, I think if you give it some leeway, it does look quite nice for what it is. And they've treated this really nice. Video-wise, it looks as good as possible. Sound-wise, it's pretty decent. There's some limitations there as well. Not as much as the video side, but definitely there. Each film has been given a commentary track. You get some intros to the movie as well. Nice collection. My favorite was The Invasion of Carol Enders. But worth checking out if you're a fan for like creepy made-for-TV movies, especially at this time of year. We have a couple of more Dan Curtis collections coming out in probably a few weeks. I'll get those. Looking forward to getting those. But for this first one I'm covering, the Late Night Mysteries collection, definitely worth checking out. Heading over to Raro Video for a beat, we have from Lamberto Bava, Body Puzzle. This is kind of a giallo film about a woman who recently widowed, who begins getting delivered different body parts from a madman who is trying to send her a message, and there's a cop trying to figure out who this person is to try to stop him. Baba, he can be kind of a sicko, just like his father. And this movie, I think, does lean into that in certain respects in terms of some of the kills and stuff that we see. There's like severed hands and stuff like that. It's fun if you like giallo films. This one has like a really twisted sensibility that I think people will like. And overall, very solid movie. If you're a fan of Lamberto Bava, definitely worth checking this one out. I'm not sure of the restoration or anything, but it looks quite nice. No major blemishes or shortcomings or anything like that. Very good transfer. It does default to an English track that does sound good, and then there's an alternate Italian track as well. And then you get a commentary track that adds some context to the movie in terms of special features. So if you're a giallo fan, try out Body Puzzle. Worth checking out for Lamberto Bava's like directorial prowess. Has some gory elements to it, and yeah, a decent release from Raro Video, and good for the horror fans. But watching that one really made this next title seem quite kind of chaste, almost very tame. We got a 4K upgrade of The Bone Collector with Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie. I had always seen this cover since I was a kid. This came out in '99, so yeah, ever since I was like 8 or so, I've just seen this cover around. And it sounded so intense, The Bone Collector. And I never got to see it, and now I finally did, and color me underwhelmed. I know people had like a negative reaction to this movie, but I like a lot of movies that people think are trash, but this one just didn't really do it for me. Denzel and Angelina as a pair trying to track down a killer. Like I said, when you compare it to Body Puzzle, which has like a lot of really gnarly kills and everything, this one, like, there are some interesting sequences, but overall it's just underwhelming. And I think one of my major hangups of this is that while I like the idea of a Denzel Angelina team up movie, the fact that Denzel for 98% of the movie is confined to a hospital bed in his apartment and just kind of talking to Angelina like over like walkie-talkie or phone or whatever, it's very disappointing. And it just, I wanted him in the action, and I felt for this kind of dynamic to work, you would have needed someone, I don't know, less charismatic than Denzel, because he feels too big to be confined to that kind of role. And Angelina, while good in her role, didn't really like stand out. And then there are some great character actors like Ed O'Neill and Louise Guzman, Queen Latifah. This has a really great ensemble, but just the story itself and how it's executed never really like grabbed me, and I was just hoping for more after all these years of just seeing this around. So decent moments here and there, but overall a disappointment. This 4K release is from a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter original camera negative, and it is in Dolby Vision. And for a Kino upgrade, I know those can be a little bit inconsistent. Overall, I was pleased with this. Not the best encoding. There is a little bit of shortcomings in terms of compression and stuff. But there's a lot of dark material in this one, so you don't see as much of like some of the like bright skies breaking apart and stuff like that. Everything holds pretty well. You don't get too much in the way of Black Crush. So it could be better optimized, but in terms of Kino titles, it's decent. And 5.1 soundtrack, and you get 3 commentary tracks. I don't think it needs that many, but you get them, and you get a featurette as well. So for the Bone Collector, it's a good release of the film if you like it, but the movie itself is a little bit underwhelming to me. But to end us on a more positive note, it's one of my favorite documentaries of the year from Kino Lorber. It is Marlee Matlin, Not Alone Anymore. It is a documentary about Marlee Matlin, who was the first deaf actress to win an Oscar for Best Actress. And she has such an amazing, occasionally heartbreaking story. And this really goes into her life as a person who is deaf, and how she fits within her own family, how she fits within the Hollywood community, how it's been trying to be a deaf performer, and how it's kind of taken a toll on her sometimes whenever she's been like kind of meant to symbolize and like represent deaf people in a way that she wasn't quite prepared for, given how she grew up and her relationship to deafness. I think it's really interesting. And this is directed by a woman who is herself also deaf or hard of hearing. And she translates that into her filmmaking in terms of like, compared to other documentaries that I've seen where you get voiceovers of deaf people whenever they're like signing and stuff, just to make it easier on the audience. This they actually just let our subjects, they like sign, and then you read the subtitles. And I think that's a very deliberate choice to really kind of get you in the headspace of like what it is like to be deaf or hard of hearing, and just like it, the way that it affects the filmmaking, I think is very powerful. And just some of the stories that Marlee has, feeling very isolated, and then the title refers to Not Alone Anymore, as like how the industry is getting better at more inclusivity for deaf actors, and how she's starting to like see changes being made and stuff. And there's a lot of really cool aspects of this, like in terms of how, like her personal journey and being deaf in America in general, in terms of like getting like closed captioning added to television and everything, like how that it's just wild stuff. And then you also get some personal stuff that can be a little bit hard to hear, that relates back to something I talked about earlier, which she was in a relationship with William Hurt, who I talked about in Altered States earlier. And while I loved his performance in Altered States, William Hurt was notoriously a very abusive person to Marlee Matlin. So he is a piece of trash in that regard, but I can still respect his performance in Altered States and his other performances. But the way he treated Marlee Matlin was atrocious. and that should not be ignored. And it is not ignored in this movie. So I like Marlee Matlin. I love this documentary, and it's very much worth checking out. It's not just a puff piece for like her. It really kind of even-handedly observes her life and the ramifications of growing up when she did, and like navigating the industry and the world. Very much worth checking out. Love this documentary. Looks good on Blu-ray. Everything, it's brand new, just premiered at Sundance in January, and Rocksteady transfer. All the sound aspects to this sound good. You get some outtakes, you get a Q&A and a trailer. So overall, a nice release for Marlee Matlin, Not Alone Anymore, from Kino Lorber. Make sure to check this one out. So that is my show. I hope you found something that you are interested in checking out. If so, please let me know in the comments. I always love knowing what interests you, what you're going to maybe add to your collection. Share this with anyone that you know loves physical media. I love getting more viewers and more people connected to the show. Make sure you like the video. It does help. Comment. And subscribe to the Geek Vibes Nation YouTube channel. I do this every week. I love doing this for you. I love digging into physical media releases. I will be back again next week with a whole new fresh batch of titles. But until next time, enjoy these movies.